right, Tom, thank you for joining me for our second little series that we're starting this year. So I had the idea of starting a show, and you kind of came up with this as far as like pulling stuff off the internet of what's happening in the world, happening in our world, just relevant affairs, and just sort of maybe firing questions at me, or I can fire them at you. And as I was out walking today, I had the idea to call it "Hit Me with Your Best Shot." Do you
Cool.
like that name?
That sounds cool. Why'd you pick that?
Well, first of all, I like it because I want you to try to trip me up sometimes and hit me with something you think I could not possibly have insight, answer, or anything on, just something that flabbergasts me. So I'm sort of inciting you to try to trip me up on something, because I like to think I could pretty much talk myself out of any situation, but I want to see if you can trip me up. But since you didn't know we were starting that yet, I'm going to tell you why I decided to call it the name that I did.
Sounds good. Yeah. Tell me, yeah, why'd you pick that name?
Okay, so back in the day, and when I say back in the day, that's like my childhood. So I was raised in the 70s, and we listened to radio, and you would call in for winning stuff. If you were caller number 7, you won a prize, caller number 10, and it was like rotary dial phone. So like it was really hard to kind of get in there. Like if have you ever used a rotary phone, Tom?
Yeah, I
If you're
have
not
not a
smooth,
whole lot, but
yeah, they're
maybe
kind of
played around with it
funky.
when I was a kid. Yeah.
Yeah, so they're kind of funky. Like if you don't, like, say it's a 9 and you kind of like it like kind of stall halfway through, it ruins like the number. And so being able to rapidly dial 7 numbers in correct succession to actually get in is a feat. But then once you get in, half the time you got a busy tone, and then half the time you got put, if you did get through, you sat on hold while they answered other callers, and then they would in turn finally put you on the air. So I was doing this little contest for years, listening to the radio, and I finally got in, and I was caller number 7, and the prize that I won was tickets to Pat Benatar concert, which, gosh, what was I, like 11 years old? So I was already into rock. My mom was into rock. I loved rock. And so that was the very first concert that I went to, that I won the tickets on. And I went with a friend by myself, which was, a really big deal at that age, to go to a concert by yourself. But that's why I just thought, since, you and I both love music, and that was my very first concert, that's where I came up with that name from.
Nice. All right. Makes
So
sense. Yeah.
what's your first concert?
Let's see. On My real first concert was in South Lake Tahoe. I went to see Moody Blues with my
Wow,
dad.
that makes sense.
Yeah. And yeah, never didn't really know any of their songs. But I had been playing guitar for a little while. And so that was my first uh experience with live music. It definitely wasn't up my alley, but it was cool to just be in that like live music environment, and the energy and the lighting and stuff. That's what I remember. I remember it being I remember it feeling cool, and like something that I wanted to gravitate towards. But the what I would say is my real first concert by choice was a little bit different. It was uh it was at the Santa Cruz Vets Hall basement, and it wasn't it's Suicide Machines was the so it was like this ska punk band. And I remember it. I don't know, you've probably been down there before, the
Oh
vets.
yeah, I saw a lot of bands down there.
Yeah. And so it was like a very like unhinged. I remember my mom, dropping me and my friend off there. And yeah, it was just crazy, just the moshing and the crowd surfing, and just how like close and intimate it was, and just like immediately being covered in sweat, and you're just like not your own sweat. And I didn't know the band like a whole lot, but um it didn't matter because it was just like, a lot of people knew him, and just that cool like concert energy was awesome.
Yeah.
That's my first one. Suicide Machines. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely think big luckily for me, being my first concert being Pat Benatar, she was you probably don't know a lot about her, but she was a big rocker chick, black leather, pretty rebellious, almost punk rock. Like, so it definitely molded me as far as like a person of likes and interests and how I like to be as well. So I think I'll always have affinity and I just feel very grateful for that music and that genre and kind of having that as a role model as opposed to like a lot of the other music that was around back then. Although now that I'm thinking about it, I had Heart. They were kind of badass. Stevie Nicks was badass. So I actually had a lot of good female role models. I'll take that back. But Pat Benatar was kind of badass. So that was good for me.
Nice. I honestly have to look it up. Look up.
Well, you didn't even know Guns N' Roses song, so I'm not going to take offense to that because
Not by
you're
names.
definitely got in your genre and stayed there.
Yeah, I found my genre for sure. And
Yeah.
I guess but it kind of changed over the years, but within the same, yeah, same area of music.
So
So,
so let me ask you about that. And your genre is really hard. Like, I thought I listened to really hard, Avenged Sevenfold, Slayer, like that was pretty hard, but your hard, which now I love as well, due to, all the time of you and I hanging out, I developed an intense love for it as well. What draws you to that very hard, fast music? Like what about it sings to your soul?
um, yeah, I think when I think back to when I, was first getting into music, I first started off listening to Green Day. So Green
Mhm.
Day and the album Dookie when I was in fourth grade. That was, I remember, didn't even have a cassette tape or anything. Um, you know, one day I got out of school and I had my best friend in school told me I needed to listen to this album that I would like it. And I was like, okay. So I was like, Mom, I want to get this tape, Green Day. And she was like, okay. And took me to the warehouse, which was
Yeah.
over on 41st Avenue in Santa Cruz, right next to McDonald's
Hmm.
over there. I think it's like Bevmo now.
It is.
Ironic for us here.
Totally.
Uh, and yeah, I remember getting a little Sony Walkman, just like the classic like metal like headphones with the little like cheap foam, and
Yeah.
immediately put it on, and yeah, that was just like the music for me. I remember just the drums was like stood out so much. But so that was what it kind of my first introduction to music was punk rock, and kind of like a poppier version of punk rock. And then you start getting into, you can't listen to the same album over and over and over again for not too many years. So yeah, I
Yeah.
started venturing into
Yeah.
other punk rock. So like, other popular stuff like your personal favorite, just kidding, The Offspring. And then,
Ah,
uh,
yep.
uh, and then Rancid, and then No Effects, and then Pennywise.
Mm.
So kind of going
They
down
started
that,
off punk rock. Yeah.
yeah, punk rock, going down that the Fat Records, and
Yeah.
then Lagwagon actually became like my favorite band for a long time. But also took, Nirvana, Smashing Pumpkins, so like into the grunge stuff too. But and punk rock was cool and I loved it. And then for some reason, I remember playing the songs and like didn't think it was um I learned the power chords and stuff like that and was able to play the punk rock songs pretty easily. There were some challenging ones here and there, but then for some reason I got turned on to Slayer and
Yeah.
uh and so the riffs of the guitar and Slayer like really pulled me in. Plus just the fact that it was like you kind of feel like you shouldn't be listening to it, because it's
It's
like
pretty dark. It's pretty
it's
dark.
well, it's blatantly satanic and
Yes.
very in your face. Lots of pentagrams, album covers, like questionable if they could even show them, in the store without covering them up and stuff.
Yeah. What was their first album? Raining in Blood. It's-
Uh,
yeah. South of Heaven. Something like that. Ah,
I
so
think it's
good.
Show No Mercy is the first
Okay.
one, but yeah, the Raining Blood had a kind of a gnarly cover. Um, but so got really into Slayer for a long time, and then Sepultura and that like thrash metal stuff. And then in the early 2000s, this like blend of metal and punk rock started happening, and they called it metalcore. And so what I liked about it, to answer your question, was just, yeah, it was just the emotion, it was just, it just felt very, very raw and like new, like no one was doing it. And, it was very cutting edge. It had this like lots of, peaks and valleys. It would, be super, super intense, like the craziest screaming. And then it would like slow way down for a second and then like, blow your socks off again and stuff like that. I thought was super cool. And then also finding out the lyrics were like a lot more relatable as like a teenager. A lot of the songs they were love songs. They were like songs about like heartbreak and stuff like that. But it was packaged and it was just delivered in such a way that was like just so cool and different. And like the main band I'm thinking about is Poison the Well. That was kind of like the big game changing band for me. Um, they're not around anymore, but they had a good run. So
But they were your
yeah,
jam. Yeah.
yeah. So I guess it's the emotion for sure.
Yeah. I feel personally responsible for bringing Pantera to Santa Cruz because I was living in Reno and I got really big into metal, into heavy, Slayer, Metallica, all that stuff. And then I heard Pantera and I was like, holy shit, this is amazing. Like, I love this music. It kind of cutting edge as well. Like,
Yeah.
they started glam, but then they went hard, but you could sing with it. And Dimebag's like guitar was like nothing we'd ever heard before. And so when I moved to Santa Cruz, I brought my cassette with me and the people I hung around. So Santa Cruz. So back in the day, the big band was Suicidal Tendencies, like
Yeah.
Surfer, Skater, like that was like the genre of hard rock back then for this area. And so I got big into Suicidal Tendencies and loved that because they very emotional, kind of rappy, kind of like all over the place. I love them. So I found Suicidal when I moved to Santa Cruz, but I brought with me Pantera, which nobody here had heard of. Like
Mhm.
the radio stations here were like behind most big cities. And so I felt personally responsible for, having everybody listen and them blown away by it. And then we all know, that was like the first tape. And then they became like ultra mega stars like they are now. So I take personal responsibility for introducing that to Santa Cruz. How'd I do? Did I do good?
Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah, you brought it to Santa Cruz.
But here's the funny thing that I realized. Listen to how this comes full circle. So then many years later, I end up having a son who ends up now moving to Dallas, which is where Pantera originated from. How cool is that?
Wow, crazy. It's
Right?
all, it's all connected.
You want to hear how else it's connected, which is super cool.
Yeah, tell me.
So Pantera was my favorite band. I'd seen them multiple times before I came into rehab, and then even after, I would go to shows. And at the time, we got a client into our program, and he was from Dallas, and he was like, "Oh, I'm friends with Pantera, and oh, I know Dimebag, and me and Phil party all the time." And I'm thinking, this guy, he's so full of shit. Like he wishes, and he talked, such a big game. So then they were coming into town. He's like, "Oh, I'm going to get us tickets and I'm going to get us backstage." And he's a client,
Yeah.
you're not supposed to be going and hanging out at concerts, taking somebody in treatment to a concert filled with drugs and alcohol. But we did. So we're like, "Oh, okay, you can get us tickets. You can get us backstage. Okay, dude. All right. Well, let's go. We'll go see." And so literally the day before they got to town, Phil overdosed. This is when he had his overdose on opiates, right? So
Mm.
I was surprised that they even showed up because he had overdosed. And I was like, I need to go talk to this guy. I
Yeah.
thought I could handle Phil Ensemble. But anyway, so we show up at the ticket office and we're all sort of standing back while he's at the window, and I'm not buying any of it. And it's taken a little while and they're making calls. And all of a sudden he comes over with his like 5 passes. We got the VIP passes, we got the, pit passes, saw the concert, got backstage, got to see my favorite band in person, saw Phil, who I was like in love with at the time, come out, and he's like, "Hey, hey, yo, hey, go Kelly." That was his name. "Good to see you." And then I watched Phil go from here down here. You could tell like whatever he took right before he came out to the backstage kicked in, and he, by the time we like saw him, he was slurring. He was a mess, and I was pissed. I was like, "Dude, you literally almost died last night, really?" But it was what it was. But so, you just never know how things are going to happen. I got to meet my very favorite band through a client, which is pretty awesome as well.
That is crazy. And he wasn't full of it.
He was not full of it. He was right on the money. So I got pictures with Dimebag. I got pictures with, Daryl. I got all of them. It was phenomenal. It was like a dream come true, and he was not full of it at all.
It's crazy.
I
My
know.
uh one of my bands, um, the guitarist Chase, he was in a band with Phil Ensemble,
Mm.
and it's called what is it called?
Down.
Scour.
Mm.
So it was like a small little band.
Yeah.
And it was crazy to see him on stage like in Europe with this like legend.
Yeah.
So wild.
Dude, they better not cancel on us this year.
Oh yeah.
We got screwed last year at Aftershock.
I know. Yeah, it was not cool. Not cool for them to cancel.
No, not at all.
No.
Especially now that they finally got back together. I mean, obviously it's not the whole band, but man, I sure do love, the lead singer a lot. And the drummer from Anthrax. So
Yeah.
it's a good combination. Like I think they're gonna crush it.
Yeah,
Wild.
I've seen a
Yeah.
few performances with the current lineup, and it sounds pretty cool. Yeah, it sounds good.
Yeah.
Yeah, with Zach Wild playing
Yeah.
guitar.
He's the best.
Yeah, he crushes it. Yeah.
Yeah. Super, super grungy, like biker rocker, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Biker rock for sure.
So, Tom, what made you pick up an instrument? So, like, I love music, love, love, love it. I'm like the lead singer in rock band, but I don't have any inclination to actually do anything professionally or even as a hobby. But I love music. What made you? Because I don't think either your parents are into music. What drew you in to want to do that?
No, actually my dad played in a band when he was in high school. Um, the Army Navy Surplus was the name of the band. And
Oh,
he was the front man. He played guitar, and I think him and another guy split they would just do covers of like Beatles
oh, nice.
songs and other, stuff that was popular in the 60s and early 70s, I guess. And so I remember, yeah, seeing a picture, a few pictures that my dad had in like this old photo album of him on stage playing and with the Fender Stratocaster. And it was weird because so that yeah, that guitar is very iconic, obviously. And and so the singer of Green Day also played a Fender Stratocaster, a white one, just like my dad.
Oh,
And
wow.
and but obviously the Green Day singer one had all these like stickers and pins and all this like stuff all over it. Um, and I don't know, I guess something about like that connection um made me interested, you know.
So it is in your DNA. I was totally
I
wrong.
guess
It's in your
so.
DNA. Yeah.
I guess so, yeah. Yeah, and then yeah, I don't know. I just wanted to learn how to play. It didn't look like entirely too hard to do, you know, and it was just fun to it was yeah, it was just like a thing that I just felt like it felt right. I don't know. It's hard to describe.
Okay. Now let me
And
ask you this. So I know partly like the reason I love the music I love, the hard music and all that is it releases which hormone is that? That feel good hormone. We're like, yeah, serotonin, oxytocin.
um that music releases
Yeah. Like when you're listening to it. So for me,
could be
like,
like it could be dopamine, like you're like searching for something and you're finding something that you're searching for, you had been searching for, I guess. It
sure. Like, so I
could
want to
get
be
you
in
some of
a
that.
good mood and up mood. I'll put on that music. Like, it helps motivate me to want to, either work out hard or go hard or whatever it
Yeah.
is. It really incites almost a physical response to the music.
Yeah, for sure. It's probably dopamine.
And
And then there's like if you feel cool listening to it, I guess you'd get some like serotonin, you know?
well, duh, I always feel cool when I listen to
Yeah.
it.
So there's
That's why
that.
I
Yeah.
do it, man, just to feel cool.
So there, yeah, it could be some serotonin for sure.
Yeah. So now you get that same feeling. And I think that's why we love like live music so much. You can like feel it, the bass and the drums and the lights and the production and the words they sing to your soul. So it's like a full-on experience, which is why I love going to live shows. Do you get that same feeling from playing? Or is it a different type of feeling?
Uh, it's a good question. Do I get the same feeling as I do playing music versus the live? I mean, I'm kind of because I usually like to play loud. So
Yeah.
yeah, I like to play loud, even if it's like just like acoustic guitar. You know, I would play loud and sing loud. Um, so so in a way, yeah, like that kind of like where music's like bigger than anything in your environment. That like feeling of just like bathing in sound or just like that big energy, you just feel it flowing through your body. I guess, yeah, I guess it's similar. I don't get it all the time when I'm playing though. It's kind of have to timing's got to be right. I mean, I picked up the guitar a handful of times and just been kind of like, don't really feel like it today. But there's
Yeah.
been other times where I'm like, wow, like I really like feel good and want to like I want to sing or like I start playing something that like I haven't played before and I can like groove with it, and it's like you get that like kind of like when a band's playing a song live and they go off script a little bit and you're like, oh, that's cool. Like
Hmm.
like when they're like, I don't know, like connecting one song into the next, or they're doing a little like um I don't like they're jamming a little bit.
Yeah, it seems like you
Yeah.
can almost go into like a meditative state, like a flow state where it's like you're above, you're in just like this ultimate creation. And it's just like such a cool sort of Zen place to hang out and be.
Yeah. for sure. It doesn't happen all the time, but when it does, it's cool like that. Yeah, it's like a state of being, that's different from anything else. I guess you can get into that state with other things for sure.
Of course.
But like writing, you could write and feel a similar creative kind of flow state, they call it, right?
Hmm.
But yeah, I think that I think that's the best I could answer your question as far as
I think
the
you did a good job
the
with that.
energy, you know? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's similar. I mean, live music, uh, like experiencing a song that you've, been wanting to like. I mean, for instance, one of my favorite songs of all time is like the Smashing Pumpkins, 1979.
Mm.
It's just such a good song. It's like very well crafted. The mix is very, very cool. And yeah, it just speaks, it's like a whole time period for me. Um and yeah, seeing like a song that you have so much history with being performed live for the first time is kind of like nothing you could ever uh there's nothing like that though. Like playing music's not like that. It's so I guess it's just conditional, like it just depends on, yeah, like how much the songs that are being performed mean to you and how much history you have with them. Um, so that's something else I would say, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. I told you how like YouTube started the new feature where it would just like make playlists for you. And that's been
Mhm.
happening to me so much. And I just listen, why is it playing that song? And it just takes me to different eras and places and times. And
Mhm.
it's interesting. I think besides smell, like for me, music is one of the things that just takes me back to whatever was going on when I first heard it, or when I listened to it a lot, or when I was getting
Mhm.
through whatever. And so I would play the song all the time. It's like, it's such a cool way to almost like instantly flash you back, as long as you don't like get stuck there, like
Yeah.
back in the past.
Yeah. Nostalgia is a powerful drug for sure.
Yeah,
It really
absolutely.
it feels unlike anything else.
Oh, yeah.
Like having those moments of just being reminded of just like, yeah, like a period of time in your life and just all these feelings with it, memories. Yeah.
Yeah, I was when I went to Vegas for the Super Bowl, and I didn't actually go to the Super Bowl. I just went to the Super Bowl experience, but I went to this restaurant called Retro. It's this famous chef, Brian Voltaggio. Anyway, it's his restaurant in one of
Mhm.
the Vegas hotels. And it was like that. It was like you looked around and there was a speak and spell, there was a Rubik's Cube, here was your cassette tapes, here was, and it was like for me, like just such a blast from the past. I was like, holy shit, this is all the shit that I was raised from, the rotary phone, like all that kind of stuff. It was so cool that he turned that into a restaurant that was almost like a museum of the era that I grew up in, and just sort of brought me back there. It was super cool. Great restaurant, great food too.
Really? We're
Yeah.
in Vegas, like on the strip or what hotel?
Yeah, yeah. I forget which place I stayed. Maybe the Luxor. Or I forget which one. Mandalay Bay. It was in Mandalay
Oh,
Bay.
okay.
But yeah, it was amazing. It was the coolest thing ever.
That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah. And then the other thing that happened, which was also super cool, just since we're talking about taking us back, 2 years ago, I went San Francisco, threw up this event called Stranger Things. And
Mhm.
so it was cool because Stranger Things is a show that was based in the 80s, although it's in the
Yeah.
present. So like my daughter loves it and I love it. So it's cool because she's like loving my era. And so they had this almost you could go there and they all the actors, and you felt like you were in the whole production of Stranger Things, which was based in the 80s, and the Ouija boards and just all the cool shit. And so we got to cruise around there, and she got to enjoy it because she loves the show, and I got to enjoy it because I'd love the show, but also because it just flashed me back to being in the 80s. It was amazing how creative they could get in making things look exactly like they used to look. It was pretty cool,
Like a movie set.
like a movie set,
Yeah.
which at some point they're going to start doing that for the 90s, I'm assuming. You know, I've gotten a lot of my 80s feel good. So I'm assuming we're going to start hitting something for the 90s for you guys here soon.
Yeah, I think so for sure. Everything, it's like, yeah, today's style is like, or I don't know if you could say this. I feel like a couple years ago you could say this. It was just like a mashup of every like decade, you know, like a little
Mhm.
60s, a little 70s, a little 80s, a little 90s, a little early 2000s.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. They had the high
And
waist jeans and the bell bottoms and
those are
yeah,
still kind of in, yeah, right?
super in, super
Yeah, like
in.
the TikTokers are
Yeah.
wearing that stuff, I guess.
Yeah, I could not get away with that. Like Aaron was like, "Why don't you wear that?" I was like, "Well, because I'm actually a mom, and that would look like mom jeans. Like I can't get away with that. I gotta go like the opposite. You can get away with that. It looks cool, hip, and retro, but I can't get away with that. Not at this point.
Yeah, the
But
high-waisted ones, you mean?
yeah, mom
The
jeans. Yeah,
high
yeah, I
the
can't
high
do that.
pants with bell bottoms.
Yeah, I can't do it. Well,
Yeah.
maybe a little bit on the bell bottoms, but I'm kind of short, so I have to have heels to go with that, or else it just looks bad.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm a big fan of that look, but
Bell bottoms, high
yeah,
waist
like high waist bell bottoms. Yeah, no. But you
for
know,
yourself or for others,
for
both.
others, yeah, not myself. I don't think there's any. Yeah, I'm still
I would love to see that then. No.
no.
I don't think you could pull it off. I mean, you've got great
I
style, but I don't think you could pull off the bell bottoms and highways.
I don't think I have a desire to try either. There's that.
Thank God.
Yeah, that's not for me.
Yeah, and I'm grateful for that. Awesome. Tom, well, thank you for our very first episode. We just sort of winged it today as far as, the premise of the new show. You rolled with it famously. So I'm excited for our future episodes when you can hit me with your best shot. See what you can hit me with. That will be a fun topic that we can talk about with relevant times.
All right, let's do it. I'll have some good stuff uh ready to be teed up for you.
All
Some
right, cool.
some good
Talk
ones.
soon.
Sounds good.
See ya.